Now, Paul certainly adhered to the church, but the church was not invented by Paul. And almost everything that Paul does, you will find antecedents in Christ's ministry, in Christ's teaching. Christ introduces it, doesn't necessarily apply it. Paul takes that introduction and then applies it. No wonder they don't like it.
Inquisition was instituted in 1229 as a tool to root out the remaining Cathari and their sympathizers. The Inquisition against alleged heretics became increasingly aggressive. Heresy was any teachings or ideas thought to be adverse to church doctrine. Pope Innocent III said, "Anyone who attempts to construe a personal view of God which conflicts with church dogma must be burned without pity." Those suspected of heresy were confined to prison for months during the investigation. The families of the accused were charged for the expenses of the confinement. Most often, their property was confiscated regardless of the outcome of the investigation. Those convicted were turned over to secular authorities for punishment, usually in the form of burning at the stake. In the year 1252, Pope Innocent IV authorized the use of torture in investigating heresy. The instruments devised for the torture chamber proved the sadistic and brutal nature of the men who applied them. They were designed to inflict as much pain as possible, and victims often confessed to imaginary crimes to escape the cruelty of the inquisitors. Inquisitors grew wealthy confiscating the property and possessions of heretics. Inquisitor Emmerich lamented that there are no more rich heretics. In the year 380, Catholicism was made the official religion of the Roman Empire, saying, "We authorize followers to assume the title of Catholic Christians, but as for the others, they shall be branded heretics. They will suffer the punishment of our authority, which we shall inflict." According to Pope Gregory VII, the Roman pontiff alone has the authority to make and depose kings, make laws. Among other things, he asserted that the Roman Church has never and will never err, that kings should kiss the feet of the Pope, and that the Pope himself is above the law and can only be judged by God himself. Pope Leo X famously said, "It has served us well, this myth of Christ." And burning was a common practice, and the general populace was even prohibited from reading the Bible. The Vatican's methods for controlling the populace became a violent and bloody campaign for ultimate domination, eliminating anyone who disagreed with church dogma. A series of Vatican-inspired wars called Crusades began in the year 1095 with the campaign for control of Jerusalem and lasted for over 250 years. Pope Urban II called for a Catholic army to be assembled and sent them forth against Muslims, Jews, and heretics. An estimated 3 million people died. The Pope had promised automatic forgiveness of sins to any crusaders who participated. A storm of savagery swept over the homeland of Yehoshua. Whole cities were massacred, atrocities committed against the corpses of the slain. In the year 1208, Pope Innocent III proclaimed a formal crusade against the Cathari and Albigensians in the south of France. He allowed for the confiscation of Cathari lands and promised the Crusaders divine clemency of any violence committed against Cathari heretics. After the razing of the town of Béziers, the commander of the Crusader army wrote to the Pope, telling him of the slaughter of 20,000 inhabitants, regardless of age, rank, or gender. The same commander famously said, "Kill them all, God will know his own," when asked how to distinguish a heretic from a Catholic. The extermination of the Cathari would continue for 30 years, during which an estimated 1 million people were murdered at the command of the papacy.
Let's look at the Pope's remarks about Islam and violence. He said, "Every day when I browse the newspapers, I see violence here in Italy. This one who has murdered his girlfriend, another who has murdered the mother-in-law. And these are baptized Catholics. There are violent Catholics. If I speak of Islamic violence, I must speak of Catholic violence. And no, not all Muslims are violent. I do not believe it is right to identify Islam with violence. This is not right or true."
When you say make allegation against the Quran says that if anybody does not accept Islam, chop off his head, kill him. Here is the Quran, and you have up to 10 o'clock to find that verse and show it to us. I'll read it for the people.
Thank you, Mr. Didat.
He says, "For those mine enemies who will not that I should rule over them, my enemies who don't want me to rule, to be the ruler over them, king over them, bring them hither and slay them before me. Kill them, cut the throats." We are talking about the meek and gentle Jesus. Muhammad said this, and Muhammad said that in Islam. What a mountain he made out of that. I said, like Jesus Christ is telling people, chop off their heads, man. You don't want me to rule you? I'm Jesus. Then, best thing, I have your heads chopped off. Slit your throats.
Saying Islam spread by the sword. Islam spread by the sword. I heard so many preachers telling me, get away from these Muslims. Islam spread by the sword. 604 pages, 114 chapters, 6,666 verses. Times I found any of those words in Arabic, zero. Not once. In the Bible, just the word sword. Over 200 times. Oops. Wait. You asked me, I'm just telling you. So when I take my Bible to the preacher and I said, excuse me, it says here that Jesus said, I did not come with peace. I came with a sword. And while they were trying to translate, put this down in the Latin language, you know what happened? They were eating spaghetti. The Italians, they like spaghetti. And spaghetti fell down and it made an S. It was word. It wasn't sword. It was word. He said, I came with the word. And you know what's wrong with that? The word for word in Koine Greek is logos. Now how did they turn logos into sword? By dropping spaghetti on it.
You look around in the world. America is attacking Afghanistan. America and England are sending armies to Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. It is not found. That means you don't know the news. They are attacking everywhere. In the name of war for peace. They are not doing war for peace. They are doing war on peace. They told a lie. There are no weapons of mass destruction. Today what's happening? They are entering Syria. They are interested in taking control of the oil wells. If you look at the Crusades, there were tens and hundreds of thousands of human beings killed because they did not accept Christianity. Do you know that?
Terima kasih ya yang sudah tonton video ini sampai habis. Jangan lupa untuk share video ini jika merasa video ini bermanfaat. Cek dan share juga video-video kami yang lainnya ya.